Yeah, they've heard more Easter sermons than I've been alive for. It's something that's
Yeah.
in their bones that I just need
Um,
to get close to.
yes. Yeah.
This is it. We have made it to Easter Sunday. Cue the trumpets, play the timpani, bust out the flowers, get it all because Reverend Thorne, Easter Sunday is almost here. How first off, how are you feeling? Holy Week is a week. You've got a
Yeah.
sermon. This is the first 6 months at a new space for you. What is this going on in your body as you approach Easter Sunday?
Well, I was doing pretty good till you did that whole summary right there and made me go, oh my God. Woo, 6 months, Holy Week. Woo, maybe I should be stressed. But actually, I don't feel that stressed. I've had just really wonderful support from you and the clergy and the rest of the ministry leaders. So I'm feeling pretty good and certainly excited. I think the older I get, the less stressed I am about Holy
Mm,
Week and Easter. I think, Reverend Amanda Meisenheimer, I think, said this. Last year, she was leading worship and in charge of worship, and it was the first Easter, and she was very concerned about not wanting to get it wrong because it means so much to people. And she said, I wish someone had said to me what she's now saying to those who are leading this year: you can't mess this up. You can't
mm,
mess up Easter, right? It's going to happen. Just like Christmas. The baby's going to get born. Jesus
yep,
is going to get risen. Whether you make a mistake or not, it's going to happen.
yep.
And that's kind of a beauty and a thing I think that we fall back into as we get older and we, go enough times around the sun, like you were saying before we started recording. When you've done this like 20 times, you're kind of like, it's gonna be fine. Jesus
Yeah.
is gonna get up on Sunday morning and it's gonna be beautiful.
Well,
So I think
I know you
yeah.
have ideas for your sermon and want to hear those, but what you just said makes me really think of the question I'm really eager to hear from you, and maybe others are because we're in the same
Mhm.
quandary. You've been doing this years and years and years and years. This isn't your first Easter, which means, it's going to happen. But how do you then step into the pulpit and preach when it's the same thing you've been kind of revisiting year after year after year? How do you not just make it feel like, all right, we're singing Freebird again? How do you still give it a little bit of like something for the moment? What do you do to give it that Adrian special sauce?
Ah, the special sauce. Well, it's interesting. I think the special sauce is really coming for me this year from the spirit and from the embodied work that we've been doing. I think more and more this year that Easter is an experience. So as I'm starting to, just put some notes down on paper and think about what can I say, what I came up with was this question: what can we say about Easter, right? So you can tell the story. And Matthew probably has the most dramatic storytelling of any of the Gospels. There's an earthquake at the crucifixion, there's an earthquake at the resurrection. It's cosmic, it's epic. If you were going to try to act this out on the stage, there would be rumbling. And we're actually going to be trying to create some of that rumble in worship on Easter Sunday morning. So I think the goal really is to try to help people have an experience, but I don't think it's really in the words. So I'm really thinking about what I'm going to invite us to do in an embodied way. And certainly we're doing that with sound and we're doing that with lighting that gets brighter as we start worship. Certainly people will have an experience always with the music. I think we do the Hallelujah chorus as
Oh
most
yeah,
churches do. So
I
all
will
of
sing the
those
bass part.
things.
That's what I still have memorized from high
Exactly.
school.
There you go. There you go. So I'm thinking, how can the sermon do that? Because
Mm.
there really aren't words for for the resurrection. And I read a commentator this year who said Matthew comes the closest to trying to describe the resurrection, but none of the evangelists actually touch on the moment. They talk about what happened before, they talk about what happened after, but there's no description of what Jesus looked like. I think in the extra canonical text, there's a story of the guards or the disciples putting their arms under Jesus and helping him to walk out, but nobody does that. Nobody tells us what he looks like, what it smells like, how how it looks to come from death back to life. And I
Mm.
thought a really funny story. Someone was trying to explain this to kids, and this one kid's face is just crumpling, and they're like, "That sounds gross." And I thought, Probably, probably. Because what does it mean for a dead thing? When we think about that, it's kind of a little unsettling and maybe a little unsavory, but nobody really touches that. It's the before and the after. And so for me to try and talk about it, this commentator suggests might even border on blasphemy because we don't really know. We use words like time outside of time, and we use words like it's an experience that we receive this story of the resurrection by faith. It takes place on earth, but it touches heaven. It's God's future breaking into our present. All of that sounds a little bit like gobbledygook, like we really can't describe this thing, but I think we can help our people to have an experience that is that is awesome. And I'll say this last thing. The best way that I have ever experienced Easter, and I wish we could do this at Riverside, is not in the church. When we've done sunrise, I served in the Virgin Islands for a year. We did it on the beach, and to have the water slapping against the boats, to see the sun, creeping over the horizon. To
Mm,
me, that experience helps Easter to be real, more than the words that
yeah.
I can share.
That that's I mean, I think any worship service with sunrise over the beach is just going to have a
Um,
little extra something going on, but especially one of these services where that just becomes such a metaphor that we experience in every sense, like
right.
literal senses. That just becomes such a rich experience. I mean, and Riverside and other churches do our best to give that, like you mentioned, with the music and the lights and all the sounds and the people who will be gathered. There's a sense of the risen community coming together in one
Mhm.
place. But I think what you're saying is right, is so helpful for anyone who's approaching this. It's more than just the words. It's how do
Yeah.
we embody this and experience this. So
Yeah.
no small task, but
Mhm.
definitely a good one.
Definitely a good task. I think to help people to touch the lavish love of this action that God has taken to give up God's child for the sake of the world. That is a powerful thing. Um, and I think it's probably going to be like a word picture. I'm even thinking, maybe I won't be in the pulpit. Maybe I'll come. Maybe I'll sit on the steps and just tell some stories, paint some word pictures, have my little note card like you with just a couple of words on it to just jog my memory, because I'm not sure that all of the arabesques and soaring words are going to get at the experience. And I'm really wanting to try to help us to have an experience of how awesome this moment was, that Jesus met these women and said, I'm not going to leave you alone. Go and tell my brothers that I will meet them as well. And this word meet has roots in a word that means to accompany. And what's so beautiful about that meeting is how it harkens to the end of the gospel where Jesus says, I will be with you always until the end of the age. That is such a comfort, to know that this risen Christ is not going to leave us. Yeah.
That's powerful. It makes me think too, not having done any study on that particular word, but anytime in Matthew, especially if I see phrases like meet meaning accompany, it just makes me think
Mhm.
Matthew's writing to a Hebrew audience who, the tabernacle would have been the framing metaphor for God with us. So
Mm,
here once again is
mm,
the risen Jesus tabernacling with us, accompanying us, being with us,
yes.
which is just, filled with so much history behind us and meaning ahead of us. And gotta love when we just enter that great cloud of witnesses.
Absolutely. So a lot of these ideas, I'm really ready to talk about this and think about this, came out of our Tower League. I did the Bible study with them. This is our older adults ministry, and I said, let's talk about Easter, and they were all over it. And I was like, I don't know what to call it, what to title the sermon. I have so many title ideas, but they also were like, talk about the women. They were really fascinated by the fact that it's the women who go to the tomb, and you and I both talk about the fact that women are the first preachers. They're the ones that run to tell the news. They're the ones that share with the brothers what Jesus has done and that Jesus is risen. And so they were like, don't forget to tell,
Mm,
and that Jesus will prepare a way for the thing that is coming next. We're going to see him again and that he's with us always. So it was a great conversation with our older adults. And these are folks in their 70s, 80s, some of them in their 90s. Um, and I was excited about Easter. You know, like you said, there can be a way that Easter comes, Christmas comes, and you're kind of like, oh boy, what can I say about Easter? But great ideas from our elders in our community.
Which is just a good impulse always, but especially on a day like this. It's not too late for anyone watching this, listening to this, who's preaching on Sunday. Don't write this sermon alone. Like, who in your community can you lean on and borrow ideas from, so that you're representing more than just your individual insights, but you're really bringing the voice of your whole community. Not to mention, like, the Tower League. I'm with you there. Whenever I've led the Tower League Bible study, it typically tends to be, I'm preaching a sermon soon. Let's talk about it. And then it always becomes the best sermon I've ever preached because I borrowed
Yep.
the best wisdom from our community.
Yes, the best wisdom. And with folks who have such a deep faith, right? Like over half a century of faith and stories and conviction. And you're right. The rootedness, the groundedness, the conviction is just beyond belief.
Yeah, they've heard more Easter sermons than I've been alive for. It's something that's
Yeah.
in their bones that I just need to get close to.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. That really brings it home. More Easter sermons than we've been alive. That is powerful. And I said to
Yeah.
them, you guys could be probably preaching this sermon, better than I could. And of course they're like, no, of course not. But they could. They totally could.
So Easter is coming. You've
Yeah.
got some things cooking. It sounds like any other angles into the sermon you're preparing that you can share, or we can discuss or divulge here in this space, or is it still kind of ingredients assembling at this point still?
I'm going to see what the sanctuary looks like. I know that we do this huge just burst of flowers in the nave, and I want to see what we can do perhaps to use that to help people have an experience. I don't know if we'll invite folks to walk around and smell and touch, but there's just something about the natural world that I think helps Easter to come alive in our bodies in a different way. It really is a cosmic transcendent thing in the same way that like a flower blooming is a cosmic transcendent thing that we can't control. And so I think to help people to touch those things that, sure, we plant the bulbs, but we don't control, the warming of the earth or how that flower comes up. And I think, and even trying to describe it kind of takes the beauty and the magic away. So if there's a way that I can figure out how to have people touch the natural world and have an experience of that, I think that's going to be a good Easter sermon.
I like that. Chelsea and I have been talking a lot about how are we going to invite Lauren, our 2.5-year-old, to experience Easter beyond just, hiding eggs and stuff. Like, what do we tell this toddler about this day? And so we're deciding on what we think will hopefully be a new annual tradition. And it's exactly what you're saying, finding things in the natural world growing around us. And so we're always going to go on like we don't have a name for it, an Easter hunt, something where we're going to look around our backyard and find something growing of each color, red, orange, yellow, green, all these things. And he knows his colors, but it's that same sense of let's look for life springing up. Like, what a great Easter experience to always have, but especially on this day. And I love the thought of inviting us to have that even inside a building with whatever nature we've brought into that space. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And just to harken back to a few Sundays ago when we had Reverend Dr. Claudio Carvalles, I was in a class with him once where he talked about we build these grand cathedrals as a witness to our love for God, but there's a way that they disconnect us to God's creation. So we've got marble under our feet, and there's stained glass, to our left and our right, and these soaring domes above us. But we miss the trees, and we miss the dirt, and we miss the birds and the smell, and we're so sealed off from the cathedral that is creation that there's kind of a disconnect. And I remember when he said that, and I just thought, wow,
Yeah.
there's something in that. When we think of indigenous folk and their worship happening in nature, with the water and their feet on the ground, or you think of
Yep.
African descended people and they're in a hush arbor, surrounded by trees, or sometimes even digging into the ground to kind of hide from slave owners so that they could worship, like in the womb of the earth, worshiping.
Mm,
Um, there's something really powerful being outside to worship in creation,
mm.
especially on Easter.
Especially on Easter. Any day, but especially this day, and maybe
Yeah.
Earth Day as well would be another good day. But
Oh,
that's
yeah,
aside from the liturgical calendar. That's
yeah.
beautiful. We literally ignore the cathedrals around us for the sake of these artificial cathedrals. They're still beautiful, but they
They're
aren't the
beautiful.
natural cathedrals that already exist.
Yeah.
It's like Dr. Cavalli has said in his sermon. You know, the Amazon rainforest are the lungs of the earth, and we're suffocating her. And there are these natural cathedrals all around us. We just need to
Right.
step into them, maybe take off our shoes and really feel them, open our eyes and truly see them. Whew,
That's
okay,
right.
there's like
That's
a
right.
half dozen Easter sermons here, I think.
That's right. And the thing that's funny is that we do it, but we don't usually connect it with the holy. So when I'm out with a friend on their boat and we're just racing and the water is splashing, I love to be on a boat that's flying and just recite the 23rd Psalm, just like scream it into the waves. But we don't necessarily think of God when we're on the water or the sun is beating on us, most of us. But we do feel something. There's an opening in our heart. There's a deeper breathing. There's a, I don't know, there's just a sense of possibility. And I think that is the holy. I think that is the spirit. And it's unfortunate that we don't think of God when we're running around Central Park or Prospect Park or whatever park you love or body of water you love in the places where you live. But that's God's cathedral. Those are the
Oh,
aisles and the pews.
yep. Ooh.
Yeah.
You are preaching to me. I mean, I did my run this morning, and I never run with headphones for that exactly that reason. I had never have. I just want to hear the sounds around me, the birds chirping. There's one giant tree standing out on this long 5 mile country road in the middle of nowhere where I am right now. Those are the things I want to notice and be, transcended by.
Yeah.
That's an Easter experience. Yeah.
It is. I mean, you might put your headphones on if you're running in New York because you might not hear any birds. You might hear, "What are you doing?" And all sorts of
Just
colorful,
listen to a
like,
soundtrack of birds in your headphones. That's
there you go. There you go. And there's no deserted 5 mile roads here in the city with like
no.
trees at the end of them. No.
Well, there's some good gems if you get up to Van Cortlandt Park up in the Bronx, but
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
for sure, for sure. But yeah, you got
yeah,
to go into a park. But we've got some
yeah.
great parks here in the city and botanical
Oh, the
gardens
best,
too.
the
Yeah.
best, the
But could
best
you
parks. And
imagine Easter worship in the Brooklyn Botanical Garden or the New
oh,
York Botanical Garden up in the Bronx with the cherry? I mean, the cherry blossoms are blooming now, and the
oh,
Botanical Garden has them in two rows. It's called the Cherry Blossom Esplanade, and then there's just a lawn, and to be able to worship under those cherry blossoms falling, they start to fall on you. It would
mm.
just be everything.
I feel like we're planning some sort of a Easter or Holy Saturday experience for next year right now. We gotta that's there's something there. Oh.
I'm sure someone would be sad though. We've got to be in the sanctuary.
Like, do it
We
on
need to
Saturday. It can be the Saturday thing or a Sunday night thing, or yeah, there's ways to accompany and make space for all of these. Yeah, but all
Yeah.
this to say, include the natural world, embrace the senses, embody the story, experience it. Don't just say the words and hear the words and recognize that, like you're saying, the sermon is one part of this whole experience, and what does it add to that embodied experience of the music and the sights and the smells and the sounds, and how does this continue that sensational moment on this Easter Sunday? Oh,
Totally.
I'm excited. It's going to be great. It always is great, but
It
it's going to
is.
be particularly great. Yeah.
It's a special day.
Well, everyone watching, listening, if you don't have a place to go for worship on Easter Sunday, you are welcome to join us at Riverside. You can join us in the nave. 11 a.m. is when worship starts. Special music at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. No, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you can't make it to New York because the A train doesn't go to your house, just jump on our website, trcnyc.org. You can join us online for the live stream. It is going to be beautiful and powerful. both experiences are great. In the nave, you get to feel the organ rumbling that earthquake. Online,
Oh,
you get to have these multiple camera angles to see the different points of view of the experience. They are both rich and beautiful experiences, and it's the best we can do to bring the nave all around the world if you can't get yourself into it. So wherever you are, we hope you join us on Sunday.
hope you join us on Sunday. We will be welcoming visitors. We'll have coffee, we'll have lemonade, we'll have pastries. There's an Easter egg hunt. And if you are in person, there's a special Easter brunch after worship, but you need to get your tickets in advance. So check the
Yeah.
website for that. There's an amazing menu. But either way, we are going to have the doors open and our arms wide open to welcome you to Easter Resurrection Sunday at the Riverside Church.
And then we take a nap, and we'll come back and do this again after that.
There you go. Holy Humor
All right.
Sunday, the Sunday after, is going to be fantastic.
Oh, that one's going to be so fun. Oh, it's going to be
Yeah.
so. Okay, lots of good stuff to come. Holy Humor Sunday, Earth Day, Creation Sunday. There are some good things coming up. All right, more on that. Weeks to come. You know the drill. Leave comments below with your ideas, questions about Easter. So much good stuff. We will see you on Sunday, and we will see you back here for the next episode of The Word Made Fresh. Talk to you soon.
Christ is risen. Bye.